Two giant monster films, The War of the Gargantuas and Monster Zero. See the two mighty Gargantuas battle to the death. And on the same program, Rodan and Godzilla join forces to destroy the deadly Monster Zero. The War of the Gargantuas and Monster Zero. Both in color, rated G, general audience.
I don't know why it's playing twice. It's weird.
A subsidiary of DEI Industries.
Got it. I know why.
They always smother reviews, they'll make you laugh and make you cry. They bring the fire. Oh my. Pops, they're the ones to watch with critics and panelists. They always hit the top. If you're into pop culture, come on. Tune into Pop Ross.
Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. It has been a crazy time in the old Talk Hard households. Loki, of course, is down in Texas, dramatically affected by the hurricane. He's doing well, but yeah, he will not be with us tonight. We're all dealing with different things, and thoughts and prayers for Chris Persian, the Great White North. He's got some stuff going on with his family. Ironcaster, we're juggling, but here, across the pond, Jay Harangue's in the house, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, man, watching this crazy old Japanese movie.
No worries. Thank you for having me. Thoroughly enjoyed the film, but we'll get on to that later.
We will indeed. Ironcaster, my friend. This has been it's kaijune in July because we just have such a muddled schedule with the way June and July were. Kaijune in July. How's it going the old kaijune fest for you, my friend?
Oh, this is great. I feel like I am right in that wheelhouse. It's like that nice little happy place. It's just it's going back into kind of the fun stuff where we're kind of making the most of it. Where we've got to jump a language barrier, and even the dub's kind of goofy. But it's just kind of
dub is a lot goofy. The dub is a lot. I mean, the dub is the voice. They couldn't have picked like the crazier, whitest people to voice some of these Japanese people. Like it is so insanely bad. Like the guy walks in early in the movie, like I'm from the Coast Office. I'm from the Coast Guard. Yes, I will talk to him. Like, it was so badly done. I was just like, I was so distracted. I was like, wow, this is just, where's the Japanese version? Let me go back to that. Watch that one for a while. So, but yeah, this has been this crazy one. Dudes in suits, miniature city, Japanese. Let's do it. So, yes, I rocked that 5 gifts that they let us do there for the membership thing. So if you have not been a part of that, feel free to join me in that. I do have early access on things. Haven't really done a member stream recently, but hopefully do that later this month. But get early access stuff. So thank you for all you guys out there. And hail to Roman. He was here up and early. Go, my goodness, I haven't thought of this movie since I was a kid. Crazy. Yeah, I know this was an OG reference. I actually couldn't remember how I had seen it when the guys were talking about 2 Sasquatches fighting. And then I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, in my brain, this is like Moss Man versus the Brown Moss Man, and it was like they had names. I was like, oh, yeah, now I remember who they are. So I remember watching this on Creature Feature when I was a kid. So, Pat's in the house, throwing up those emojis. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate you. And hit that like, share, subscribe buttons. Appreciate you, Pat. And yes, Roman, thank you so much. And there's this guy. He's hanging out with us. So, Ironcaster, where does this one rank for you? Because this is a very popular sort of in that sort of vintage Japanese kaiju Toho stuff. This is actually one that a lot of people really like because I think as far as the story goes, this idea of the one kaiju sacrificing itself to make sure the other one does die to save all humanity was a very interesting concept for folks back again 1960s, right? So where does this one kind of fit for you?
The funny thing with this movie is, in a lot of ways, this feels sort of like an evolution of where you could have gone with like a King Kong, because there's sort of that natural idea built into the character of Kong, where he falls in love with the woman and he's wanting to kind of protect her. Well, let's build that up. Well, what is he going to protect her from aside from just planes flying around shooting him? No, it should be other monsters. We saw that in King Kong. This, like I said, it just feels like that inevitable kind of build up on top of that, where we get to see your monster get to have those heroic moments.
That's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. A little bit of the Kong Godzilla Kingdom thing that they just did, the New Empire thing. It's kind of got a little bit of that, but the kid becomes the magic key to everything, which is like the Mothra thing, and not that. But that's a fair interesting angle on all that. So, Jay, was this the first, based on Jay's private message comments to me? I'm thinking that this was probably Jay's first time seeing this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I've really bypassed, or the whole giant monster from the sea stuff has really bypassed me. Like, I've never seen the original Godzilla. I think the first one, obviously, I've seen King Kong 1930, whatever. I've seen Godzilla 96, is it, or 97?
Oh, you see that?
98?
Yes.
Yeah, the bad one that everyone says.
98. Yeah.
I've not, and then the next one I saw like that was Pacific Rim, and then the follow up. And the Atlantic Rim, the Asylum version. But so I'm totally out of that of this loop completely. I've never really understood it. So the first time I watched this, I was like, "Is this serious? Is this a thing?" Like, there's like it looks like two guys in a monkey suit running around a model village. Like, I mean, I live next to a model village. Like, this is something we have in England, and it looks exactly like that. It's very cleverly done, but I couldn't believe it. But I watched it again because I watched it about a month ago. I watched it again, and actually, I did quite enjoy it. I mean, I do think it's quite a good film, and there's a lot about it that is brilliant considering when it was made.
So yes, Jay's messages to me were like, "What in the F am I watching? Like, what in the name have you asked me to sit? Like, you know." So the first impression of this, especially when you go in, it was pretty cold. I mean, obviously you could tell by the photo or the poster that it's going to be pretty cheesy. But yeah, if you're not into like the concept of, you know, the 50s into the 60s, dudes in monster suits and miniature cities, the Japanese, and the style of filming, everything like that. And yeah, it could be a little shocking. But
Yeah.
you know, again, as you roll with it, you know, maybe you're able to pick up a little bit more of some of the interesting nuances that I think that they, again, like you said, I think it's very clever, right? The clever is a great word for it. So
you know, one of the interesting things with this movie that kind of stood out to me in revisiting it is I was just kind of caught up on thinking about the fact that this movie starts out with this giant octopus attacking the ship, that after this initial scene, we just never see that again.
Yeah.
You're almost led to believe that, like, yeah, this octopus is going to be showing up again at some point, right? No,
Nope.
no, it was just for like this one scene.
I mean, the octopus, personally, if I was a kid and I watched that, I would have found that terrifying. Like, that I mean, I'm someone that's frightened of big sea creatures anyway, and that goes to like a tuna. I mean, like the idea of that, I mean, creepy. But then it becomes immediately comic when the green bloke he's got the boat and he's like,
he just picks up the whole boat at one point. It's like, it's just crazy. But I will say, I agree with you. Like, there are shots of the creature and how this is playing out, that I thought were, you know, were a little intense. Like, he just, like, tentacle grabs the guy. This is the shot. It's just like, it's so silly. You're like, what on earth? No, this is obviously much later in the film.
He's just like pulling a tarp over himself.
Yeah. But again, the 1960s, like mid 1960s, the way they shoot it with the lighting and the close-ups of their octopus model thing or whatever. But you know what I think was interesting was, did the Japanese ever know, like, this scene? I don't even know that he ever actually says out loud, there was this octopus before the monster showed up, because I don't think that ever even is brought up in the dub. I don't remember if it's in the Japanese version or not, but I don't even think that the dude who survives even tells the Coast Guard and the officials in the movie that they even mentions the giant octopus that may or may not still be out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it went straight in with the monster. I mean, which one he was talking about, I don't know. But as I said, the version I watched, it has a bit of English and then it cuts to a load of Japanese. Now, I don't know whether that's because we take, you know, less time to say stuff than they do. That would suggest to be the case by how quickly people speak in these, you know, these anime that are translated. But yeah, so much of it is just all Japanese, and then they just throw in a bit of English words. It's a bit like Bollywood films in that way. So I don't know whether he was saying, "Oh yeah, and by the way, there's a giant octopus out there as well," in the bit that's Japanese. But all I heard him say was, "There's a monster."
The octopus was the true hero. He was trying to be, wasn't he? He was trying to just do his thing. And
The octopus
Yeah,
is
I
going
don't-
in like, hey, you know, you don't go to these waters. Like the Gargantuas here.
And that would also suggest that people in the 60s in Japan just accepted that there was the odd giant octopus hanging around that may or may not attack a boat.
and we're all fine with it. And the other thing that there's the major plot hole thing for me was the fact that they kind of skip quickly to the fact that, like, okay, so there's this moss creature out there and everyone's like totally spooked by, right? It's like, okay, he's walking amongst these models and everyone's all, this is out there. And then they contrast that with the fact that they knew, at least somebody knew, this American dude knew that they raised this baby. They call it the Frankenstein in the English dub, this gargantuan creature. So wait, so why is there any shock that there's a monster if these people had one like 5 minutes ago? And it was like such a strange plot element. I don't know. Ironcaster are there other kaiju movies where they're like bringing up the little baby? It was like Harry and the Hendersons. We just hanging out on the couch with the little creature and having a sandwich, I guess, and bonding to the girl.
Well, part of what's kind of lost in it's sort of in the process is the fact that this is sort of a sequel to no, I think it's called like Frankenstein Conquers the World,
Right.
and these the implication here is that these two were basically like kind of had kind of come from the remnants of that Frankenstein monster, and so we had one as this little baby that was raised by the humans that they at some point lost, and then he went and basically got himself cut, and then they had another Frankenstein monster who was evil. It's all ultimately just sort of an attempt to try to justify, justify the model sets and justify the Frankenstein monster. Well, we got to do this stuff. Well, we can't just have the military shoot at him. Well, why not? Well, because we can't have the military blow him up. Well, because then they'll just multiply. We'll have like 50 of them. No. So we gotta like, let's starve him. Let's freeze him.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So when they raised the other one, is it Sander? Is that what it's called? Let's just call him the orange one. When they raised the orange one, how big was he when he escaped to the mountains?
Probably the size of a man, I'd have to assume.
Well, that's what I'd assume.
Yeah, I didn't have any sort of like explanation in this film, and their best explanation on why we got the green one was something happened with the other one, and it got into the water system, and then it got with the algae and the plankton, and that's how it made its clone. It's essentially a clone. An evil clone is the brown one, which is quite racist if you ask me. But it's okay. They're very anti-green in Japan. It's totally okay. I mean, I get what they're saying.
As we all know, there's the magic in Japan is the water in Japan is magic, which is why you always why they have such a strong hot spring culture, which is why you have Monster Island nearby, where Godzilla and all the monsters just keep kind of going back to after they burned down Tokyo.
Gotcha. On a serious note, we will take a moment pause. Yes, Pat. Hurricanes are a bummer. Do not recommend. And yeah, if I've ever had to deal with a hurricane, it's quite the joke. Obviously, Pat, when you live in Florida, it's like a regular. I've lived here for so long. It's like an annual thing. I'm like, I should be a consultant. So, and Roman does claim he's the evil clone of Pops, but some people might claim it's the reverse or the inverse universe version of one another. But yeah. Anyway. So the one thing I thought was interesting was how they sort of like do what the other kaiju films did, Ironcaster, where they have a lot of sort of like government stuff. There's a lot of these sequences and scenes where there's people and they're talking, but it never felt like any of this mattered. Like it was such a weird disengagement that I had in this film compared to like the Shin movies that we watched last month. Like last month, he was really focused on the governments and kind of having a sense of realism of like how they would deal with an actual creature in crisis. And whatever they were. All three movies kind of had a little bit. Shin Ultraman, Godzilla, and Kamen Rider had elements of what the real life response to do. In this movie, they have a lot of like real life time spent on things, and I never felt like they were connected to what was actually happening. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Ironcaster, what did you think?
I mean, the problem is also we have the extra language barrier, which I mean that's kind of true with the other ones, but this comes from that era where the attempt to redub these things just isn't as steered towards being authentic as possible. So that is one possible factor coming into play, as well as, you know, hey, they were just kind of tonally different. Where, you know, we're still kind of making a movie, you know, kind of geared at kids, whereas the other movies, the Shin Kamen Rider, Shin Ultraman, while those could be watched by kids, they're really more kind of those are more passionate works of an adult fan.
Okay, that makes sense. So when you were watching these, Jay, did this feel like something for kids, or did this feel what was? I don't know exactly how to put my head around. What were you even thinking was the target audience? What was happening in Jay Harangue's? Because I mean, you're a guy who spends his time watching. I think the phrase is bad. How's the phrase goes?
Oh yeah, terrible films.
Terrible films. Spend my lifetime watching terrible films. Please subscribe.
So
yeah, so.
I find it very difficult with to gauge what a target audience is anymore, because things that I would have thought are for children are massively popular with adults. So like I would have always thought that like Superman, etc. When I was a kid growing up, I thought that was targeted at children. Apparently, that's not the case, and the vast majority of people that watch it are grown adults. I mean, I like it still, so it's fair enough. With this, I don't know. I mean, I with the whole the government stuff, I think it's just an excuse to offer the two different sides. Well, there's one general talking against the main character, isn't it? So they just show the opposing sides, and that's it. I don't think there's much nuance going or policy making taking place, is there? It's just like, oh, I think we should kill the bad one. No, it's all right. Actually, don't bother. And that, as far as I saw, that was all it was. Again, it may have been the dub, but that's pretty much what the whole point of the all these scenes were, wasn't it?
No, it's fine for me. I just think, because I know you haven't seen these other films that we're referring to, these new Shin films, which are new. They're done by a fan, like an Uber fan. Like imagine Ironcaster getting millions of dollars to make a film based on like, you know, the old stuff. And it's very much a nuanced approach, because it's not even like, let's make a reboot or a new 2024 version of this. No. Let's make a fan-inspired, like almost like an homage film. It's not even meant to be like totally up to date with technology. It's like, let's make something that's very in line with like the real life practical effects. Something like this, I feel like a Shin Gargantua would not shock me, but I feel like what would be so tonally different was at least some of the stuff that's going on with the humans would make more sense to me. Because I just felt like there was like the white guy, the Asian girl, there's like romantic tension, but never anything ever going on there. And she's raised the little baby Sasquatch, who's now the hero and fighting the green Sasquatch. And I'm like, okay, it seems almost like too overly simple, because I come from a world where I've seen King Kong with all this heavy metaphor. I've seen Godzilla, which has obviously different types of a metaphor. And now we end up with something like this, where it's just a bunch of, it's seaweed guy versus brown guy. I don't know, Caster, help me a little bit, man. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, you got to realize this is what I believe 1966.
1966, indeed.
Right, so we're talking like still at like the very beginning of all the Godzilla stuff. We haven't really had time to really sit here and do a whole lot of the deconstruction of these things. I mean, Godzilla as a character Godzilla as a movie was already this tale of the dangers of nuclear fallout and nuclear weapons, and so it's still coming from that age of, well, this was really catching on with children, so they were trying to make a lot more of these that were kind of more geared towards children. It's just you're seeing sort of that attempt to sort of kind of figure out who is the target audience, because this is about 10 years after the original Godzilla.
Right. Yep. And it comes to America. a little bit after that, which I found interesting because I didn't know that headed into the. Oh, Chris Berger made it. Hey, Chris. Hope you're hanging in there, brother. Great to see you, man. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate that. Jay, when you're watching this, so again, first impression versus rewatch, the fact that they were able to pull off this sort of like green screen approach with models and actually live actors, with having a dude in a suit, miniatures, filming extras. I got to be honest. I remember having loving it as a kid, like you were saying, like as a kid, this makes sense. And as an adult in college, things like that, I kind of fell sort of, I won't say out of love with them, but I didn't watch them as much. I watched a lot of them, but I drifted more into like the horror genre stuff and some different things like that. I just didn't watch a lot of this kind of stuff. And then now, as we've come back, I've kind of grown an appreciation of the creativity it took to come up with like the idea of even trying to come up with this idea to make this even feel as real as it does. Like it's been, almost 60 years, but really for 60 years ago, you're like, man, that's really kind of cool for 60 years ago.
Definitely.
I mean, yeah, that's one of the things I really come to appreciate with movies like these is there's a lot of attempts to find new ways to take new advancements in technology, new filmmaking techniques, and asking the question, how can we tell a story with this? What can this new like crane arm or this blue screen technology, like what can we do with this to tell these stories?
True, very true. Hail to T-shirt historian. He is here. How you doing, man? Yes, we have that Ironcaster guy. Yeah, you can get him here every Tuesday. I guess on every Tuesday he'll be with you in a little bit. So make sure you guys are subscribed to T-shirt historian as well. So very cool, very cool.
Yep. You guys got to share custody of me.
Well, you know what? I had you first, I think. No, he had you first. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We all have you. There's enough of you to go around. You've blown up. So, by the way, if you haven't seen his Monday mech stuff, guys, if you're into this kind of stuff and robots and stuff, man, it's cool. I know Jay's like a bunch of. I'm surrounded by a bunch of children. It's exactly what poor Jay's saying. He's watching movies for women, doing reviews on movies weekly, and then he's hanging out with us children talking nerd stuff. And so it's this poor guy. Yes,
I just got new like Kamen Rider figures.
You do have new figures. Look at you. All right.
I have an extensive Lego collection. I'm not turning my nose up at anything like this.
All right, see that we've added the fact that he does have childhood love. So, Jay, I know it doesn't always come up in conversations, but people will ask me. So I was curious if people ask you, like some of the movies that you watch, some of the different things going on, those kinds of things. Is there anyone that you like? Hey, by the way, I'm watching these two Sasquatches fight movie for this show. Yeah. Okay.
I've told a few people. So I was online doing some online gaming last night just to add to my nerd credentials. And I was telling everyone, "Oh, this is what you're doing." I said, "Oh, I'm watching this," and they were like, "What is that?" And then they obviously went on and watched the trailer on IMDb, and everyone's just pissing themselves, like because for people that don't know, this is hilarious, and it was for me the first time. Well, because of stuff like this, obviously. But give it a chance and watch it again. And there is a lot to appreciate about this sort of stuff, especially when you think of when it was made. And it seems to be picking some of the moments that are more ridiculous, but a lot of it is very. There was only one time when I thought, "Oh, that's poor," and that was when the scene where he rescues the woman, catches the woman. When it's got that
really bad blue screen effects.
Yeah. Which is surprising because they seem to do. I don't know anything about the process. It must be more difficult. I'm also really interested in the makeup. I mean, the guy, the green one, the guy who plays the green one is an oddly shaped bloke, isn't he? I don't know whether that's the suit, but he's like waddling around. Whereas the orange guy seems to be a bit more.
And you know what's funny about that is, I guess for me, I put so there's a term in our little Uber nerd culture called headcanon, right? It's not something actually in the film; it's something that actually you put in the film from your head. In my brain, Ironcaster, you'd probably confirm this, because the brown one was raised by the humans. I thought that's why he would behave more like a human, and the green one was just more organically a monster. So that was total headcanon on my part. But Jay's calling me out on the fact that whether it was intentional or not, but that's what my brain did. And I'm like, oh man, he's so right. Cause it just could be the nature of the film Whereas I'm putting that in there. It never comes up in conversation, never comes up in the movie at all. It was total Pop's headcanon. Yeah, Jay, that's fair. That's great. And I don't know. I don't know what directions they had, or I don't know any trivia about that. So yeah,
it's sort of the ultimate nature versus nurture question.
right.
Going back to that old adage. So kind of pulling from a little bit of the trivia section of IMDb, you know, not to give away too many of the trade secrets. One of the suit actors, Haruo Nakajima, was like one of Toho's main suit actors, and this was one that and so he did a bunch of the Godzilla films, and this is just one among those. And I guess apparently this was one he really liked because he didn't have to hide his face. He could actually kind of see out a bit better than usual. He could emote and express, which you get that coming across in the film when he's looking at how his brother has gone and injured humans. And it's like, without any words, you immediately start feeling through. You're seeing the emotions fully on display with this man in a rubber suit having to wordlessly express what he's feeling.
Yeah, that was true. Yeah, I kind of took note of that as well. Angry Canadian, thank you, man. It's that 13-month member chat. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. Hail Talk Hard Crew. Is that the British version of Space Ice I Spot? Laugh out. Okay, I don't know.
I do get a lot of people on my videos saying Space Ice is a better channel underneath my comments. So I assume that's right.
There's a lot of Space Ice references going around, Jay. I think we definitely are covered at that. Yeah. The chemicals.
The ice pirates.
Ice Pirate. Oh, Ice Pirate. I'm not watching that again. What else can we do? These chemicals. That's just the silliness in there. But the Thing 82, they famously had a mix of toxic goo for one of the scenes that nearly poisoned everybody. Yeah, there's some stuff back in the day, man. Yeah, Rob Bottin, man, he was crazy. He was nuts. But practical effects. So, is that
Brilliant.
that guy from Mephisto show? Monkey Jeebus wants to know. I think he is. I think he is. He is indeed. And hail to DJ Ronnie G. Yeah, got to see this. Yeah, my DJ Ronnie G, that kaiju list, man. Yeah, love the look of it. Silly, man. Like, listen, you love it, man. Dudes in rubber suits, miniature cities, Japanese shenanigans, monsters, and as we've pointed out, as Jay accurately pointed out, I really didn't even harp on this, but we probably need to go back, is the fact that there's a giant octopus, and he's only in the beginning of the movie. Poor octopus. There's a sequel. Like, there's some sort of follow-up with, like, the story of the octopus needs to be told. What happens to this poor guy?
Giant octopuses do appear in a number of films like around that time, don't they?
Yes,
as in American films, and they're always the side character. I think there was like, is it something to do with Nemo or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, for sure.
Also, even in some films like, I think it's The Deep with Nick Nolte. I think
much later.
There's sharks. I might be thinking of another one, but there's also an octopus at the start. There's normally like a moray eel or an octopus, and then they shove like the real baddie to get the octopus or the moray eel. But I think this is quite a common theme because I think they're quite easy to make, octopuses, aren't they?
Yeah, because you can just show a tentacle, right? So in the beginning of the scene, when it's going after the guy and wrapping around his neck, it's just a tentacle. And as a kid, there was, okay, we'll pull it. Well, I don't know. We'll tell a story. Sure, leave the octopus up. We'll use it for the short.
Yeah.
As a kid, you were always fascinated with these stories. And it was like this urban legend stuff where they'd find a whale with the giant suckers on them on a beach, and there's giant octopus out there and the ships and some of that stuff. Even though it sounded like it was like mythology from way back, it still fascinated us as a kid. There was no internet to go to, there was no context, it wasn't easy to look this stuff up or you were just like, it played in your imagination. So these movies fed off a lot of that, I'm sure, in the 50s and the 60s and beyond. So I actually kind of like the octopus effect. I thought the octopus effect was probably one of the high points in the movie because the way they used the dark shadows and things like that to kind of add, to hide the rubber suit, hide the effects. You know what I mean?
Well, it also helps that every now and then, like, you get these odd, really rare stories about just the most alien-looking creatures from the ocean's depths that wash up on shores, things that you wouldn't believe exist because are just so far down in basically an entire different section of the ocean that we don't regularly interact with. So it all does is just keep fueling these. We're like, oh, there's monsters down there.
Yeah, Jay, he believes there's Megalodon, just so we're clear. He's pro Megalodon.
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I'm
No
yet
take
to
on
see
that
one,
here.
but yeah, no, not really. I don't know what's down there. I don't know. We could all be being lied to.
Indeed.
So, who knows?
Hollow Earth,
Yeah.
baby.
Hollow Earth. Okay. It looks like the Immortal Hulk. Yeah. The chest scene is life changing. Oh, goodness gracious me. You guys are great. Oh, dear Lord. We need to get Jay on the show, especially if we're talking about awful films like Gladiator 2. That's fine.
Oh, what? That's I've just been sent that trailer. Not
That trailer just
yet,
dropped for sure.
Yeah, I'm yet to form an opinion.
Looks like dinner theater to me, but hey, who knows? Jacob Ironseed, hey brother, hope you're doing all right. The Kraken, who's Kraken? Indeed, can they just pants up over the Kraken? They made a lot of toys with suction cups and Action Man and octopus. Octopi have a more complex genome than humans. Oh, yeah, I don't know. They're fascinating, that's for sure. So,
I mean, you've got to remember pre sort of when everyone had a television in their house and watched nature documentaries, the idea of a giant squid or giant octopus is just completely horrifying. That's why zoos were popular, isn't it? Because you hadn't seen a lion or a zebra or a giraffe, and these things look incredible. And if you think about that, then an octopus, which fewer people would have seen, would
that's
be
so true.
A lot of people would think those were completely alien creatures.
I
No
remember
inspiration needed.
I remember being a young boy, so I'm talking like 7, 8. I know we moved in 79, so it would have been before that. So it's roughly 7 or 8. And we went to a like a regional carnival type zoo, not like a big city zoo. And it was the first time I saw like a spoon-billed fish, like a fish that had like I was like, I'd never seen one before. And it was like,
Yeah.
Because as a kid where we lived, you didn't have that. So I know in Florida, because everything can live down here. So our zoos and the theme parks, they just have this magnificent exhibits of things. And I've always been fascinated by watching other people's responses. Then I have to ask myself, the odds are they've never seen that before. I mean, like 0 chance they've seen this or seen that. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. And then, we all should be like wondering, when will we see this, Ironcaster? When will we see this? That's what I want to know. So I love the effect of just the button and then just it's great. Right in the side. Look at him reacting like he doesn't know what he's doing. They're putting typical Japanese, just blowing stuff up, man. Love it.
Yeah, they're gonna run out of tiny trees one of these days.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like they can't have had more than one go at this because somebody must have taken a load of time putting that whole bonsai forest together, only for some massive bloke to fall over and say, "I'll do it again. I did it wrong."
Ironcaster, can you look and see if there's any behind the scenes photos of this? And if not, just pull up something from one of the other kaiju films. Let's give Jay some behind the scenes look, because I don't know if Jay's looked or not, but it's kind of fun.
No. And while you're doing that, but going on this whole kaiju thing, is what's the first one? Is the first one Godzilla?
No, King Kong would be way before Godzilla.
But I mean,
King
as far
Kong's,
as things
King
coming out
Kong's
of the sea.
1933.
33.
Yeah.
When was the first Godzilla story?
1954. So
right.
that Godzilla is sort of like birthed out of the bombing of Japan, right? So it's all the nuclear metaphors and all that kind of stuff. And of course, with that came the idea of the nuclear weapon the nuclear energy would create all sorts of crazy anomalies. So hence we have Mothra, the giant moth, and we have all these, just all these crazy things. And that's where the imagination went crazy. The ape analogy is basically just, Beauty and the Beast, right? I mean, King Kong is really on the nose, but
they still do that now in their low budget B movies, although it's less now. They've moved away from nuclear fallout to climate change and global warming, haven't they? So if you watch the Asylum films like Giant Shark versus Mega Octopus or any of those, I've seen a lot of those. It's always because global warming caused the polar ice caps to melt, and frozen in time was a giant octopus and a mega shark.
If Jay ever isn't working a day job, we can figure out how to get him Tubi. His channel will triple in size. I mean, the amount of free content he'd have, it would be off brand. Or maybe we'd have to get him a different channel because his current brand is it's a small bubble. But another brand or you could partner with someone like Ironcaster to do like shark content because
Yeah.
there's got to be like 50 of these shark movies on there, Jay. You wouldn't
I know,
believe. I mean, it's everything you could possibly imagine. So
I don't think
is-
there's a shark film I haven't seen. I absolutely
Okay.
love shark films.
It is Shark Week, by the way.
it is indeed Shark Month. Here, Shark Hard. We will definitely get back to shark. So
Shark Heart.
Shark Hard, yes. Octopi. Okay, we got that one. And then in this house, let's see. Relied at Jehu's dream. Okay, octopuses are honest to God. God, space aliens. Their genome doesn't conform to any space planet. Cool. The alien. Okay, origin. There you go. There we go. We got more of this. Lots of this. You guys are crazy, man.
What is he talking? Well, sorry, what are they talking about? What is CTHULHU?
Cthulhu, as in
Right.
the Lovecraft mythos.
Is it H.P. Lovecraft? Jay, it's not something Jay would be down with, but yes, there's
What is-
another
I don't
rabbit
know.
hole.
I still don't know what it is. HP Lovecraft means nothing to me. What is that?
Yeah,
Is that
it's
an author
another-
or something?
So,
Yes.
I
So-
can't read, so fair enough.
real quick, H.P. Lovecraft was a 1930s pulp writer who had a bunch of really weird out there stories about just these unknowable horrors that
Right.
existed. And among those was one of these ancient older gods known as Cthulhu, who was like this big giant kind of man with a squid for a head.
Right. What else? What else did he do? What else did HP Lovecraft do? Because I think the name rings a bell.
Yeah, like I have a book on my shelf, but stuff like the Lurking Terror. He did like the T-shirt is right. He did write some letters to with Howard or Robert E. Howard.
Right. Okay. I think. Yeah. Okay. Conan. Yeah.
We'll have to send him home with some homework. It's okay, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss saying congratulations, T-shirt, on making 1,000 subs. That's super cool, man. Congratulations to that, my friend. It's always good. Yeah. So let's give a little bit of perspective to the
Oh, nice.
at foot. It's super cool to see this. And I just look at the one guy leaning. I think it's great. It's like, this director. But I think Jay came away with, and I know I did, as over the last couple of years of revisiting so many of these movies. And I would encourage people to do that. If you've never really rewatched King Kong 33 or you haven't watched it in a long time, just remember to yourself, this movie is like 90 years old. Think about 90 years ago, the creativity of like, okay, I'm going to shoot this scene with this dude in a suit. We're going to make this little tiny airport. We're going to make it look like he's doing this. That's really kind of cool. I mean, I have to admit, I wish we had this kind of effort in a creativity, like trying to find ways to make it, work. Yeah.
I like how they haven't even got a tall guy to put in the suit. Like he's a normal sized man. I don't know why. I just expected he'd be like a 6-footer at least.
Not in Japan.
This doesn't. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Not in
If they're
Japan.
going to draft someone in, he's going to be the main character.
Yeah, the guy that's like the guy with glasses. I know. The giant man. It's terrifying. Modern yakai. Okay. Human monster suit. Yeah. So the one guy looks and plays very human. DJ YG, you were playing that. So when you're watching the movie, the brown one was raised by the humans, and then the green one is the clone. So kind of take note of that, because I don't think it occurred to us, but Jay fleshing that out for us kind of made me realize that may be something they were going for. I don't know for sure, but I liked it for sure. I don't know what we're looking at there, Ironcaster.
Oh, so I would be remiss if I didn't play this little clip, because this is one of my favorite ones. One of the suit actors from some of the other Godzilla films. It's just kind of an adorable little clip here. Let me show you guys. This is some behind the scenes footage. The actress would roar.
Huh.
That is brilliant.
I've never seen that one. Wow. But then again, you know what? When you think about that, that's actually, I mean, obviously you're using some sort of like puppeteering and machinery to make that work. We were talking about when we had the blue screen guy who was like in kind of part of the suit and hopping around and things like that. It's like when you can kind of get that perspective of the creativity, I really enjoy all that rather than this new phase where we'll just CGI it in later. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I mean, that's fine. It's not the worst, animation. I mean, I can't draw that and make it happen, but I don't know. There's something kind of cool about some of this old school ways of making things. That's for sure. So,
And,
effects are
and, you gotta,
generally
and then
quite
and then
fun. Sorry, go ahead.
and then about a decade after this, we get that sort of staged up again with Star Wars.
oh yeah, Star Wars is such a different level of puppeteering and stop motion because that's where there's a guy called Harryhausen who does the stop motion animation, and that was like next level stuff too. It's like, okay, we can just not have these type of models. We'll just use like these claymation ones, and we'll do that. And it kind of allowed for even a different type of creativity. And then it's when you got to Star Wars, he's like, okay, we're going to use stop motion for this, but we're practical for that, things like that. So, Jay, I know you and your friends were kind of probably having a little bit of even fun at our expense for liking a movie like this, but that's okay.
I didn't know you liked it. I thought we were all just having a laugh, but now I can see why you liked it. Definitely.
So my love of this isn't something that I rewatch regularly or anything like that. I actually do love the original King Kong, and I really enjoyed. I really fell in love with watching the first. I know they were not supposed to like the American version, but I actually like them together. The original Godzilla and then its U.S. partner, because I feel like they're in the same universe. It's just like one's from like the American perspective of what was happening in the other movie, because they just refurbished the same footage. I don't know if you knew that or not. They just did the Japanese. When it came to America, they thought it was too Japanese, so they put Raymond Burr, this famous actor from that era. They put him in the movie as this journalist. So
Raymond Burr is in Perry.
Correct. Yes, Perry Mason is in the Godzilla or U.S. version, and they reshot it so that he's in it. But the original it's the same footage. They just redid it. I look at them as both being the same events. It's just kind of one perspective of the other. And I kind of really fell in love with it for the same reason that we're talking about this. It's like that's just the idea of so much creativity of its time and appreciation. Maybe that's the best way to talk about the appreciation of it. And it definitely raised my standards of kaiju films of like creativity. It's why they rewatching some of the new ones where there's just so much CGI and no story at all. I mean, literally, when I'm cheering for the humans to die, they're doing something wrong. I just said that's kind of my new litmus test on these movies. If I'm cheering for the humans to die, they've done something wrong, and that's kind of where I'm at. In this one, I felt pretty good about it. I actually had a pretty good laugh at the singer. So in this movie, I don't think there's any footage in the trailer. Just randomly, some American woman's just singing. I'm like, it's like Love Boat or something. It was kind of weird. The Richies they have this special lady. She comes in and starts singing, and the creature just goes over and is like, "Hey, what's going on?" Just scoops her up, and then they turn the lights on. They figured out the lights he doesn't like light, and he just drops her. I'm like, okay, all right, that was a thing that happened.
Bring a doctor over. She'll be fine.
Yeah. There was like, oh, and then and then the worst part is it wasn't like a believable splat. They just cut, and then they just have her lay down, and she's laying down perfectly flat on her belly. She's not like she doesn't have her arms out or anything like that. She just, she's just laying flat. Like it was okay. So
I think going back to Raymond Burr, I think I heard recently that Raymond Burr struggled to get roles as a leading man in Hollywood back then, because people said, he was overweight and he was ugly. And back then it was, only handsome and attractive people were allowed to be leading man. Ridiculous, really, isn't it? But like I heard that he went to do this whole Japan stuff, the Godzilla stuff, because as a breakthrough into that sort of thing. But don't know.
Okay. I think there's a lot of that Hollywood, how things would navigate. I mean, the idea of him doing any Japanese work at all was probably not thought of as the best strategy. So the idea that it worked so well for him, it was great to hear that story. I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. So
yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had said, "Thanks, Raymond. Here's your massive green dinosaur suit."
Yeah,
that's backfired, hasn't it?
Oh yeah. To emphasize the dramatic size difference between Godzilla and Baragon, actress Ria Ote was cast as Baragon. Her small stature allowing her to wear the suit, which was roughly only half the size of Godzilla's suit. Became the first ever woman to portray the kaiju in a Toho film. Second woman ever to portray a kaiju after Yumi Kayayama portrayed Super Gyos. Okay, there you go, guys. Gyos. Why aren't you reading these? Gamera the Guardian. Okay, cool. I'm not next level enough t-shirt. I'm still like, so Jay is still like at the noob level, kind of where I was probably a few years ago. And then I moved a little bit into like I'm in the appreciation and the growth phase of things where I'm still learning. I really haven't been rewatching them enough, but then the next level will be understanding who they all are and who's in what and whatever. So bear with me as I try to learn and grow. Um, so wait a minute, hold on. I got to play a monster in Power Rangers, and I was a mascot in Buffy. The suits are hot. What? Seriously?
Whoa! Hang on. Which mascot were you in Buffy? Were you the school's mascot?
And which monster were you in Power Rangers? Because do you know who played the scissoring hen? Because that's what I want to know who got to play the hen, the giant chicken with the scissors. So just so you guys know, that's the inside joke. Godzilla's named after the fat warehouse worker at Toho. Gabriel Whale, the director and anything. Okay,
that's one of the things where it always winds up kind of
second
rolling back
Razorback.
over. It always just kind of winds up rolling back over to talking about Godzilla.
Yeah, how could we not though? There's Raymond Burr.
Yeah, there he is.
And it's such a fun watch though, Jay. If you watch like the two, I think it's our app. We don't know which apps you have over there. We have one called Pluto, and Pluto will have the Japanese versions. Like
I've got that.
Okay, so Pluto has, I believe, they're still there, the Japanese version with the subtitles, and then you can watch the American. And one of the sharp contrasts, which you can see in this photo for me, was Raymond Burr is a big dude compared to these Japanese people.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a big dude by our standards.
No, he is. He's big.
Yeah. So it was one of the huge things. He's supposed to be a journalist, but he looks like a football player compared to the people in this movie. So
he's about a good half a head taller at least.
Yeah, I don't know how big he is, but someone in chat will hit us for sure. So yeah, cool. Ironcaster, this movie came up because we hadn't done a lot of kaiju films. We kind of did like a Shin universe thing where you broke my bubble on all the Shin movies, even some that I still at this time scratching my head to totally understand. So you think this is weird, Jay? Whew. Some of the other ones are just, there's a lot of kaiju movies where you're just like, I don't understand. I don't know what's happening here. The one, Jay, they make a giant woman. Like the gag is like literally to look up her skirt. Like literally the Japanese don't even hide the ball on this one. Like it's so clear.
Yeah, they're quite into pants from what I know. Yeah.
And she's just walking around. I'm like, what? They literally have a camera shot where she's walking and she's going to step over, and then they cut away to where like, every Japanese boy is like, oh,
And then I think they had a joke in there too, where like these like 2-3 guys were all like grabbing their cameras out, so they go snap pictures of her walking under.
Yeah. It's completely crazy. So, Raymond Burr's 6 foot. Okay, yeah.
I'm surprised. I thought it was much bigger than that.
Yeah, but the Japanese people, especially back then, small.
I suppose people in Hollywood are much smaller than they appear on our screens, aren't they?
Oh, massively so.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So
this big.
I was at the radio station when they were promoting. The radio station they were promoting Analyze This. Right? Is that the first De Niro, Billy Crystal movie? The psychology one, right? Analyze This, Analyze That. I don't know which one it is. Whichever one's first. De Niro was there.
Yeah, and Analyze This was the first one. Yeah.
Okay. He was so short. I was like, I don't know why I thought he was taller. I just don't know. But it just seemed like a more. But when you see how short they are, it doesn't matter about the rest of the demeanor and how they hold themselves. It just looks like a short dude with a bad attitude. It's kind of
that's it. Then. And the reason why you thought he was taller is because he goes around acting like a hard man, doesn't it? Saying stuff like, "I'd love to punch him in the face."
Yeah, now he's screaming at random people. But back then it was like, oh my gosh, this is the guy from Casino and Goodfellas and Raging Bull or whatever. And you see him and you're like, he's like 5'6".
Yeah, that's
little tiny dude.
That is I can hear so many people my age's dreams being crushed when they hear that Robert De Niro is 5'6".
Yeah, he's this little tiny dude. You guys in chat will fact check the exact. But he's literally that short. I can be off a little bit because of the. George Lucas as well. George is this little tiny man. Like, I don't know that he needed to be small in my head, but to see him next to Harrison Ford, it was like Harrison Ford's a man. This looks like a dude, like a regular guy like us. Like he's just a regular guy, pretty big. I saw him when he was old, but so I can imagine he was in pretty good shape doing young Indiana Jones. Like, he probably was looking pretty like a stud. And Harrison's like this little. You can see why all the stories about George directing are like, yeah, you guys, he's like talk to him like a. Because that's exactly about how big he is. He's this little tiny dude. You're like, wow. So, yeah. All right, where are we at? I don't even know anymore. Ironcaster's getting some most actors are 4'6". Indeed, indeed. All right, Monkey Jeebus, he's giving us some more heads up on this back. Joe, I don't have Monkey Jeebus. Monkey Jeebus, you need to hit me up if you're willing to do it. We should just do a what's your story if you as the mascot story, just because of that. People just forget about everything else we want to talk about. We want to know just these ridiculous type stories. That's fantastic content, my friend.
We gotta get you with OGGM to talk about the Power Rangers ears.
Oh my gosh, it's great. I want to know who was in the chicken suit. I want to know the chicken suit. Can you pull up the chicken photos of Jace caught up to what the inside joke on the chicken? Because
I don't know.
It's way inside. That's inside baseball from like a long time ago for sure.
Right.
So yeah, he's 5'7" and they're way shorter. So you're only 5'7". Yeah, you're
wow.
Gotcha. Yardstick is taller than Bobby the Duck. All right, so let's see what else we could take a look at, because the trailer had, I think, Jay, you were commenting like, yeah, I'm only showing some of the sillier. That's the trailer. That's what they ran with. So don't shoot the messenger, because that was my take too when I pulled the trailer up to throw some footage in for our opening, and it's like, oh, it's jam packed full of these kind of shots. Like it's just this was what they sold it with, was all of this. So and watching the trailer, I kind of feel like the movie would have spoiled for me. Look at this. They spoil everything.
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Well, but that's what they do though. They put a bunch of the best moments in the trailer to make you say, I gotta see that. I gotta see, how we get these two giant monsters rolling around in a city.
I mean, you've got to look at remember this was pre the Jaws trailer, which really did change things, and that's what sort of inspired the Jurassic Park trailer, where you have these things where everyone's looking and they know what they're looking for, but they don't see it, which makes everyone want to turn up and watch it.
That's true.
But before that, it was a case of, oh yeah, here's the best bits, let's go and watch it. And I thought that actually the Gladiator 2 trailer, it was too long, and I feel like I've already seen the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only watched like maybe 20 or 30 seconds, and I stopped watching because I felt like it was just too much. Like I was like, I've seen enough. So I don't even know. The odds of me getting Mrs. Pops to go see Gladiator 2 is like 3%. Like 3. Could I go on my own, fit it in? Maybe. But the odds of me getting her to go, no. So here, I'll stop that so Ironcaster can share the chick. Do you find the chicken picture?
No, was this the Power Rangers monster?
Yes, Power Rangers chicken with the scissors.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's my metaphor for the quote scissoring hen.
Right. Okay.
The real life incarnation of the scissoring hen. The image that Jay didn't know existed. Some of you did not know. And if any of your members out there, hit that scissoring hen emoji. Let's blow it up for Jay, so he'll go home with a scorched image on his cerebral cortex. That's what we do around here.
And that's from Power Rangers, is it?
That's correct.
Right, okay.
Yes, indeed.
They were like, what do we have? A chicken and some pruning shears. What the heck? Let's have a fight. Let's have a fight a giant robot in a city. See,
you did the reverse. You're like, what do we have around here? See, this is so strange to me. This is more like them getting high on the weekend and going, we need like a giant chicken with some scissors, dude.
One interesting weapon of choice.
Yes, is that a turducken? No, that's a scissoring hen, Roman. So now when your people are out there going scissoring hens, which is where we started scissoring hens over here, you guys, we spoiled it over there. So I got it. Piranha suit, indeed. So the laser, the laser's a little strange. So
see, I think with the chicken, they just took inspiration from Lorena Bobbitt.
Oh boy. Well, the chicken predates Lorena Bobbitt, I'm pretty sure. So, but yeah, she may have been inspired by the chicken. Who knows? So, Jay, did this make you feel like I need to take in a few more kaiju film, like expand 100%. Your base a little bit?
100%, because I now feel that there's like a whole area that I'm completely missing out on. Like I don't like knowing nothing about stuff. I don't mind not knowing everything, but I hate knowing nothing about stuff. And the fact that like you guys are like, oh yeah, this one, that one. I'm like, what is this? What is this? So 100%. I want to watch a few more of these.
Okay. So a lot of this stems from sort of it's a whole genre of Japanese entertainment. This is all tokusatsu. Like famously, you would probably recognize it from Power Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, I know what that is, but I mean, I think I was like 5 years too old for Power Rangers.
Right. Well,
it came after Turtles, didn't it? And I was a bit old
Yes.
for Turtles. Yeah.
But that was how a lot of that sort of got its footprint into the wider world, was Power Rangers, where they would take this like Japanese suit footage of these spandex clad heroes fighting monsters in like a quarry somewhere, and then on occasion we might have the leftover sets from a Godzilla film that were like gonna have like a giant superhero basically fighting, and there's so many of these out there that are just that it's turned into its own little mini Hollywood within Japan. Like you have people who are lifers, like they have basically their entire careers have been being being part of teams that do nothing but make these shows, make these films.
Yeah.
And they'll go someone will go like 50 episodes a year. They are all year round going.
Right.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So I always liken this to the fact that here in the States, we had this big science fiction boom, of course, during the atomic era as well. Obviously, people know about Godzilla and stuff, excuse me. But even with like Ed Wood, where he had like the plate on the string, trying to have some sort of effect, things like this, like you said, this model city, they literally built a little model airport. They didn't even bother to try to like film at an airport and then green screen the guy. No, they just made a little model. Like the idea that they would go through this much work to make these models and stuff, to have like a regular, probably 5'6" dude in a suit look like this giant guy. Like they didn't even go and try to bring in like an American NBA player, which do. Which they do for Bruce Lee movies, and they did for Conan. They bring in Wilt Chamberlain, they bring in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So I find all that fascinating that we've gone through so much film history and so many things have changed, and most people don't know about it. So part of the fun of picking movies like this sometimes is to, like, I don't know, open awareness, like to someone like yourself and people out there in chat, or someone that's watching this 5 years from now going, what is War of the Gargantuas? YouTube, what's it? Oh my gosh, look at these three guys like bagging on what on earth is this? Not it's us talking about it, because I mean, it's crazy. This movie is, I will say this, there is that moment like you were talking about when you were talking about rewatching it, where you start to see sort of them like the story. You're starting to see like the story. You're starting to try to see how things are coming together with these two, and the good one versus the bad one, and what are they going to do and how they're going to survive and things like that. So
another scene I want to ask a question about. So one of my favorite scenes was when the military attacked the green monster right before the orange one appeared, when he's grabbing the tanks off the front and striking them on the houses. Right. There's a helicopter comes out, and it's like a model helicopter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was thinking, hang on, they've made a model helicopter here because he's going to grab out of the sky and eat it or something. But as far as I saw, I don't know whether my version cut out, but he didn't. And then they just replaced it later with a normal helicopter. So I'm wondering what the point was of showing the model helicopter.
When I've watched this and other movies like this, I feel like a lot of times, what IRONCASTER said, they just happen to have them. So they have these things, they're making these things, they get out there, they're shooting, they're doing different things. I don't know what gets lost in editing. Again, we have a language barrier too with some of the creativity behind this. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys have like, I don't know what kind of Blu-ray discs versions of this stuff there are, where they have like some sort of explanation of how some of this stuff was made. I don't know. Again, we're talking like almost 60 years.
Yeah.
So well, it's probably 60 years since it was made, because it came out in 66. So you figure 64 to 65 was when this thing was being made. So it's a little hard to even figure out what that true story is. I really don't know. So go ahead, Iron.
Well, I mean, there's also the part of this, how it's a fact that, hey, they're going to use these for some other movies too, so they don't want to necessarily go and destroy their like the 3 helicopters they use, because they're use those for the next 2 movies.
Fair enough. Yeah.
This is the movie to the Ed Wood plate on the string reference, Jay.
Right. Okay.
And that's the name of that movie. Talk about the all-time worst movie list. This is going to be in that category of movies where this guy made this. This is like us making a movie today. Like, we don't have any money. We're just going to what do you got at your house? And I have this, and I happen to know this one real actor. He's going to be in the movie. To the point where he dies.
Monkey Jeebus. Yeah.
Well, he dies, and they actually bring in something else, some other guy who has to cover his face so that they don't realize it's a completely different guy. Like it's literally that. Yeah.
Get his dentist.
Yeah, they knock over their fake tombstones, so you can just tell they're just left down. They don't even bother to have a continuity person notice, or they don't. Yeah, they can't afford to do all the reshoots. They can't. They have to keep going. So, okay, yeah, we have to get to this. Ironcaster, my friend, I have to admit, if I had seen the movie, seen this, and look at the faces around them, and I'm thinking to myself, are there outtakes? I would just want a disc. I want the outtakes from this movie because this scene with this little guy, did they
Robert De Niro?
little Bobby. He does go by Bobby in real life, which is completely awkward and weird. They call some like dude like that Bobby. It's like weird. Yeah. At least Billy Crystal went by Billy. Like it was just okay. That's fine. He's also a micro. I mean, he appears to be a micro person. So like that you get that when you see Billy Crystal. But Ironcaster, I have to admit, this was the part. If I didn't remember, this part caught me off guard. I did not see this part coming. It caught me. I'm like, wow, this was like Ewok size, weird in every possible angle. Like it's like a Japanese Ewok scene, and I'm like, when they release him into the wild, Jay, they don't really address how big he is. They just don't. They leave it to our imagination.
If something that size escaped, you'd be like, "Oh, this is bad, isn't it? You know, we better make sure we find that because it's gonna struggle to survive. It's like a child." But they're just like, "Oh, it's gone into the mountain. Let's just leave it."
Yeah, they don't really. Again, I know there's supposed to be some other movie, which I guess people would know when this came out, but I didn't know, and there's not enough context for us to know. And they talk in the movie as though he's gone and he's out there, and we just don't know. They didn't talk about like we think he's dead. They just said he's just gone. I don't know. We don't know. Nobody sees him, so he must be gone. Like they literally have sort of like the Yeti, Sasquatch phenomena of Bigfoot, right? Oh, he's just gone. No one's seen him, so it's okay. No. And you're like, what? No. Wait.
It's like terrible dog parents whose dog gets out of the yard, and then they're just like the next day they're like, "Oh, do you remember the dog?"
Remember we had a dog, Jay?
Yeah, where is it? Oh, I don't know. Somewhere at the back.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a great reference, Pat. Oh, Land of the Lost. So, again, Jay, down the rabbit hole with like 70 shows. This is Sid and Marty Krofft did those kid shows where everyone's in suits and stuff. Do you know what we're talking about?
I think I've seen a few of those. That's the guy that looked like about 60 with the white man's afro used to be in all of them.
One of the there's stuff like that. So cool.
Yeah.
So, the giant beaver. Oh my God, dear Lord. Acolyte reference. It's good. It's good.
I have not even hate watched that, I'm afraid.
No, I'm not touching it. I'm not even. So
no.
I wanted to just get to that shot because I think that there's a couple of these scenes where they are fighting back. Maybe I don't know if this is exactly the scenes you were talking about. I love the fact that they just switch the camera angles and stuff.
This one's brilliant because obviously these two, the main guy and the assistant, know there's a massive monster out in the woods, right? So they walk out to the woods and suddenly they see these group of people screaming and running past. And they say, "What's going on?" So it's pretty likely that it's the monster, isn't it?
And it's kind of wild they're in that area of the woods. It's not like they went there to try to read. Yeah. So I agree with you. There's a lot of those moments, and I thought to myself, I go back to Ironcaster principles too. Probably lost in translation. However, this is pretty right. Yeah. So yeah. This was and this is one of those shots that was in the trailer. It's like all this stuff's happening, and he literally has that look, as Roman says, "Did you hear something?" Yes, exactly. Thank you, Roman. Great reference. But this is the shots. These are the scenes everybody talks about. This is stuff that makes the posters, things like that.
It's the shots like this that apparently are the stuff that like guys like Quentin Tarantino and Nicolas Cage hold up as sort of like some of those like, either favorite or inspirational movies for them that kind of led to them getting into Hollywood.
Yeah, because they're a few years older than me, and I can see how cool this was when I was a little kid, right? So this This comes out in the States when I was born, so it came out in 70. So the idea that they're a little bit older than me, so they're going to be like little kids when this is becoming this big phenomenon. So of course this looks like the greatest thing ever, man. Monster movies and creatures with these crazy effects and micro cities and imagination on something like this is through the roof. So, I mean, I think we can at least agree on that type of appeal for these
and the
kids.
work that's gone into it. I mean, you've got. I mean, like the miniature stuff, like the work that's gone into it is incredible.
I mean, the best part is when they go and build those miniature cities, they get to destroy them.
Yeah, but only once. It's got to be a good take. Seriously, like, can you imagine being the model maker? I mean, like, seeing that all just being
job security, man. It's job security.
Yeah,
job security. I guess you would never stop working at this point because it's like, in theory, they're going to destroy it. You're just going to need more tanks. You're just going to. So there's going to be another kaiju movie at one point. Just keep making. So yeah.
Tell you what, the other people who are always going to be in business are going to be the model makers.
It's good. Yeah, Tarantino worked at a video store. I went in as a kid, Video Archives. Oh man! Again, Monkey Jeebus with the stories.
This guy needs to write a book. This is obviously been around a lot of stuff.
I know he's been on Buffy. He's Power Rangers. He's hanging out at Quentin Tarantino's store.
He was saying some stuff in another chat I was in that was it was pretty interesting as well. So I think the guy's got a lot of stories. He definitely needs to be a "What's Your Story" candidate. I think.
Yeah, man, I gotta get his. I don't know if I have a thread going on that, but we got to get you on, man. That sounds like fun.
Even the few things he's mentioned in chat this evening make my entire existence seem pathetic in comparison to his. So I wonder what else he's got to say.
Tarantino probably judged him for checking out the wrong porn.
Maybe, or not porn at all. He was like, you didn't like this Western that I recommended or something. So
there's always some pretentious guy in the video shop, isn't there? That, well, I don't know whether it's like in the US, but in here, because obviously the people that worked in video shops back in the day, they were people that loved films. And like, you know, if you ever go up with Gremlins, they're like, ugh, what's this? You should watch this. And it's some foreign muck that no one's interested in with subtitles. And so I'll just piss off and get me the film I want.
Yeah, we went through those phases now. I don't know, because we don't have like brick and mortar video anymore.
Yeah,
really.
Of course,
I mean, so I think once Blockbuster took over and it became such a big chain thing, it was just full of noobs just like us.
Yeah.
But before that, if you went to like video stores, kind of like what Tarantino's place would have been, like the Video Archives, there was like half and half. There were people that were there working, just making their money, like they got a job at McDonald's and they got a job at a video store. Or there were the people that were like cinemaphiles who had all this time in the world working at a video store, and they had all these crazy foreign films. They'd be like down the rabbit hole, and they were kind of cool to kind of know, but not hang out with long because they drive you crazy with down.
For us maybe, but for like as in for people who are into films. But I can imagine for a parent who wants to go and grab something to shut her kids up probably isn't interested in the guy's banal opinion, because he flunked out of film school.
No, that's where you wind up with like getting stuck in a conversation with Tom Connors.
Oh, right, I know that is. Yeah.
So just a little praise for the film as far as like the meat and bones of the film. I will say the meat and the bones of the film is that, you got these two dudes that are in these suits. They don't really talk, and yet you have like actual acting. You have actual moments where they're able to sort of like convey emotion and compassion and things like that. So I know we kind of sidestepped around through that a little bit.
I have another question about this film. Sorry.
Yeah. So go for it.
I had to go back. I had to go into and look at the plot on Wikipedia to find out a certain moment, because all I saw was that the two of them, one was trying to make the other one better, and then he fell asleep, and then the other one just picks up a tree and smacks him with it. But how did he find out that the green one had been killing humans?
There's a quick shot on the ground, and he can see the blood. He can see the blood. He can see evidence that he's eaten and killed humans.
Okay, I missed that then.
Yeah, it's a quick little shot where he kind of turns his head, and you can kind of they give him some sort of emotional like chain. I don't know. There's not much to work with, right? He's under this giant ridiculous suit, but I have to admit I took note of that again the second time I watched it too, because like oh yeah, I can see what they really were, and I can see that and if you're in a theater where you're not distracted by the world and you're really kind of watching this movie, I can see people being like, "Oh man, he's caught on to the fact that this one's the bad one." You know what I mean? Like because the audience knows which one's the bad one and which one's supposed to be the good one. So the character's doing that. Yeah. So it's a very quick shot. I
just assumed they needed to move the plot on so one hit the other with a tree. But
it was kind of a slow motion move too, because he kind of slowly grabs the tree. He doesn't wake that one up yet, and he just starts hitting him. Yeah. Roman, I'm with you, man. I do miss the video store thing. I don't even know how we can get it back. I think it's just dead. I don't know. The record store experience still exists. I judge the other customers. Yeah, I know it does a little bit. I don't think it's everywhere. You happen to be in an area where a record store can exist. I don't think that's common.
or a specialist vinyl collector, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The Wounded Monster Man. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, Ironcaster. Any other thoughts that you want to throw out there for something like this? Because it's got its own little nuances. I want to make sure I give you some more time to discuss.
So the thing I like with this movie is it sort of feels like effectively sort of one of those quintessential kaiju movies of the 60s. As iconic and memorable as many of the Godzilla ones are, it's just kind of content to tell a story with its own thing. It's not part of a bigger thing where you're having to completely like kind of change gears. Like, half the Godzilla movies, he's seemingly like an ally protector of Earth, or maybe he has a son. You're like, well, wait, why is this never come up with all these other films? This is just here to tell its thing. We get this little story about a good monster who ultimately sacrificed himself to save humans. And sort of as a sort of all-encompassing story in and of itself, it's a good example of the era for what you could expect.
I liked your spin on it earlier, where you're talking about how this was the natural thought progression of like the King Kong story arc, and then kind of where we are now, where we have one that's sort of like a protector of humans versus one that's just a monster that's ravaging. This one kind of hits that note pretty well. And I will say, this would not have been on my radar screen had we not chosen this movie. It was just one of those things I would just never have run across until one of you guys had mentioned it. I'm too much down the Godzilla rabbit hole. There's 30. Did we come up with 37? At 37 Godzilla movies? That's insane. Like, I don't even know how. So that's a deep rabbit hole for a while. So to know that I have a little sidebar with the Sasquatch fights was kind of interesting and fun at the same time. So. And poor Jay, I asked you to watch this. I didn't know you were going to watch it twice, and you watched it right away, which really made me laugh because yes, the first few days of Jay, like, what in the name, and then to know that over time there was at least some different thoughts that came into your head. It's been kind of a fun experience.
Certainly has.
Yeah. What is one of your biggest takeaways, Jay? You haven't already mentioned it. You mentioned a little bit about the creativity and the model building and stuff like that. Any other like real big takeaways?
I think that's it. I mean, I'm someone who rarely watches films made pre-1985, but every time I do, I always am glad that I've done so. So it reminds me to just make sure. And there's a number of reasons for that. I mean, a lot of it is because it's just like the enjoyment was all there about just watching a film. And I think the mid 80s, sort of typified that, where it was all because you would go to the cinema purely for enjoyment, not because for Oscar bait or not for anything else. Just like, this is fun. And every time I make myself watch something old that people recommend, I always end up enjoying it one way or another. So that my main takeaway is I need to do that. What I would like to know, though, and that is because I'd like to know the three, if I'm going to get involved in kaiju movies, what are the three sort of ones that I have to watch? What would you say the first three to anyone would be?
I'll let Ironcaster give you a rundown. I'm such a noob. I think you've already seen King Kong 33 because that is sort of like the quintessential concept of a stop motion and a creature and a monster and all that. And the original Godzillas. And if you get a chance to watch them on Pluto, I really do encourage you to try to watch the Japanese version with the subtitles and watch the American. Think of them as like the same universe, because you can see this masterful creativity, and then a way of like, oh, they're gonna try to shoehorn this in for an American audience so we can like it too, was really what was happening. And I think it creates a foundation of why a Godzilla monster atomic era thing would be popular. And once I got that in my head, then like, okay, I can really, really appreciate these on a different level and not just the cheesy monster suit. And I will say this, when I rewatched those in particular, the musical score and the lighting and all that kind of stuff really came into play, because I started to go, oh wow, look at the way they had to shoot this so they wouldn't look so cheesy, right? They dropped the camera way down lower to look at the way the wires are when he's walking through wires, and okay, we're going to shoot it like this, so the spotlight's over here, and this is like, okay, cool. So then when I watch a newer one, then I can kind of see where some of the homages are and some of the things that inspired the people that are, I guess, fanatics, if you lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So that's kind of those. I had to kind of go to that place, because then now I can appreciate even newer ones that when they're not very good, because I can see, oh, I can see what they're trying to go for. I can see this, I can see that. But it is definitely kind of an interesting niche of films and genre of things. It's different for an American, because I know it's such a bigger thing to other people. What about you, Ironcaster?
Well, the thing I was going to bring up was when you were talking about movies before, 85 was your cutoff year?
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of times what you see happen is the movies that get thrown out, get recommended, are the movies that by and large have stood the test of time. Like, not many people are going to say, go watch Windy City. No, it's going to be those great classic action movies. They're going to say, you need to watch Commando. They're going to say, you need to watch The Sword and the Sorcerer, or Metropolis, or, you all over the place, the original Scarface, etc. These are the movies that have by and large stood the test of time, that get so well protected and preserved that people will, basically hold on to until like the last breath of humanity.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what Chad had to say. Before I get Ironcaster's list, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah. So right down that rabbit hole. Throwing Gamera in there. Godzilla, Final Wars. There's a Mothra trilogy. Jet Jaguar teaming with King Caesar. All right.
So that one is specifically Godzilla versus Megalon.
Okay.
Jet Jaguar only showed up in one of the Godzilla films, so.
Okay. So Jay, this is the new one, the one that won the Oscar in Japan, the Godzilla -1.
Yeah, everyone was talking about that a while ago. I'm definitely going to watch that one.
Yeah, so if you watch those original two that I'm telling you about, kind of get through that and work at Godzilla, you can see the like direct connection to Godzilla -1. It's just a beautifully done sort of like modern version of what they were going for from at least my opinion. I think it is for sure.
Yeah.
Jacob's doing great. Hopefully he has a great show later on as well. What do you think of King Kong Escapes, Ironcaster?
So I think that was the movie they did to predate the Godzilla versus King Kong fight, where there was an attempt to do where Toho was able to go ahead and do a King Kong movie. And so they decided, well, we're going to have King Kong fight a robot King Kong.
Yeah. They try to just make him seem like he would actually be able to hold up to Godzilla, because Godzilla, in theory, would easily destroy King Kong or something like that. So, what other recommendations would you have for Ironcaster? What would you tell Jay to kind of dig his teeth in and try to grow?
So, kind of your couple of major monsters is going to be, of course, Gamera, which has his own whole series of movies. This is the giant fire-breathing turtle who spins to fly through the air.
I'd never heard of that, but okay.
Is also a protector of small children.
Okay.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 had gone and done a bunch of parodies, the riff tracks of several of those films. Those are out there. So one of those, I would say the original Gamera, possibly Gamma versus Gyron. But again, those are 1960s kaiju movies. So this is sort of right in line. So what we saw here today was basically right in line with kind of what you expect out of those. Those are more geared to children. It's pretty accessible, and they're just silly.
Yeah.
Of course, just about anything Ultraman is also worth watching. A lot of
What's
TV
Ultraman?
shows.
Is that like a massive mech type thing?
He's red. He's basically a spaceman.
Alien.
Alien comes to Earth, changes sizes. strikes a big pose and shoots a laser.
He looks like a robot fighting these monsters. Basically, is what he looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been around for I think 66. So
again, I think even on like Tubi and Pluto, these kind of apps, you can find at least a sampling of these things, and you can watch a 70s TV show version of like Kamen Rider and these kinds of things as well. You can get at least you can get a feel for, 20 minutes can give you a feel for what people are talking about when they when they're making these kind of references. I know we're running a little long on time. I want to make sure we have time to plug everything. Ironcaster, let you go first because you have a whole litany of things that you're working on, man. I got to make you. I'm so proud of you and happy for you, man. You'll be on with T-shirt later and things like that. But give everybody a little heads up on some of the things that you're doing.
So tonight I'll be over with a T-shirt historian who's in the chat down there, and we'll be doing our little midweek in geek, as I've been calling it. Tuesdays with Geeks, I believe he calls it, where we're kind of delving into whatever may be coming up. Like we were kind of shooting a little story back and forth, for example, about how that Yasuke, the Black Samurai, some of that might actually be a pretty fabricated story that was never actually true at all. So we might be delving into that, covering that a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about some new comic books we picked up this week. Who knows what happens over there? Friday nights I'll be over on with 32 Flavors of Equalizer for Clobby's Comic Shop, which we've gone and named after our good old friend Clobber Times, who tragically passed away, and so we want to kind of carry on his memory and talk about comic books. Saturday, I'll be back with T-shirt for the Weekly Geek, where we will no doubt be talking about Wizards of the Coast because they sure love to stick their foot into it each and every single little week.
All right.
And Monday nights on my channel is the Mech Pit Chat, where hey, we talk. This is our bread and butter, stuff like this. We got to talk about some big robots, Transformers, Gundam. Model cities are a plus, but not mandatory. Just is it fun? Let's talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about video game music.
They're definitely going to talk about this Gladiator 2 trailer for sure. So Jay, your Fridays have become like a must see YouTube for me. So I'm loving it. I usually listen to them twice because I usually I'm driving. I can't comment while I'm driving, but I'm laughing and laughing, and it's funny because I'll have to reach over and pause sometimes because he'll be like trying to give me an image of what's happening. I kind of have to get the visual of some cheesy silliness that's going there. But great stuff, man. I always love what you do.
Thank you. So this Friday is that's quite the streaming schedule you have there, Ironcaster. That's impressive. I just do one video every Friday. It's normally a Lifetime movie or something else terrible. This weekend, mine I've had to be very careful. It is Single Black Female, which is the Lifetime take on 1992's Single White Female. I'd like to say I've been careful and respectful and trod carefully. I have not. So I suspect to lose a few subscribers, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I find joy if I've done a video and I lose a subscriber. I get a commenter now and again who has a valid point. I'm like, I can see why you don't subscribe. That's a good point. Especially whenever I forget to do. So I'm doing this Star Trek rewatch thing, and sometimes I'll forget to explain to everyone that I don't watch Star Trek. And this is like me watching it and then explaining to you. People think I'm just going to watch it with them. And that's what I mean. And people are mad because they think I'm just, and I'm like, no, I'm not a Trekkie. I'm giving you like a new perspective. Like people get it, but every now and again you get someone who doesn't know, and they're like, and you're like, they come in like 16 episodes later. I've been doing like this, like it's like I'm on like episode 18 or whatever. So
you've the number of people Googling Star Trek and just seeing someone go,
who is this crazy old man who's dissing the Star Trek affection?
And normally their main aim of these is to go into these things and tell people stuff about Star Trek that they don't know. So if they see that you don't care, they're going to be livid.
Yeah, they get pissed. Yeah, I know. They do. Some do. Some are like, I actually try to encourage. And I think that I like this film. This is an episode I like, so I didn't go through my whole spiel as much as I normally do because I got excited. I actually like this episode a lot. And normally I make comments about explaining my perspective and asking them to teach me things. Like I'm not going to look it up. Part of what I do is I just go in it completely cold. I could Google. I could go to IMDb. I could look up all this trivia. Obviously, it's from the 1960s. But it's more fun to just go at it raw and let you guys do it. So, but yeah, I've been doing a little bit more videos here recently. The schedule's kind of all over the map of when I can, when I can't. But yeah, I also got to get to Monkey Jeebus and figure out how to get a Watch Your Story with him and get some of this stuff on the record. Put a pin in that. That's been good.
Definitely.
And, I need to get Ironcaster. I haven't done a Watch Your Story with Ironcaster. I don't think we officially have done that, or maybe I don't think we did. But we definitely need to do it again if we have. We definitely need to do that and kind of document the Ironcaster story. And then we'll have Jay back for more Jay stories. 'Cause I
Remember
got
to
a
press
feeling there's a
record
lot.
this time.
We will. Well, that was a Christmas one. So
Yeah.
if you don't know behind the scenes, Jay represents one of like the handful of like the most embarrassing mistakes in pop's history is the fact that we did an entire hour or so, and then I go to end the recording, and it was not read, and I'm like, oh, and he goes, I don't think it was recording. I guess you're right. And we realized that we were just chatting and just went right into the conversation, and I never actually, because you can click it and it won't engage, like you have to so that's what had happened. So anyway, we took a break, came back, and he was very nice with his time. We did a whole nice show. And I felt like it went faster because we
Well,
already
yeah, I rehearsed the jokes. I could deliver them slightly better. So there you go.
We were like this, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
People
so
watching
the
would have thought I was
scenes,
really
guys,
clever and quick.
he's on his game. So yeah. So let's see. But yeah, good stuff. So for sure. So all right, guys. Well, listen, it's been fun. Listen, you guys out there, make sure you're coming and hanging out. Next week we'll back on Sharks. We're back on Sharks. We got our Sharks. Yes, we weren't down show last week. Things went afoot here with the weather and stuff going on in personal life, but back to Sharks. It's supposed to be Shark Month. So Deep Blue Sea will be next week. And then Jaws, we'll do Jaws on the 23rd. And then the 30th will actually be our 100th episode of Talk Hard. So we'll have a special show with Ryan Roger Athe making a very glorious return, because Ryan is part of the origin story, is he not, Ironcaster? It's all started with Ryan for sure. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun.
It all goes back to Ryan.
It all went crazy with Ryan. How would we ever know otherwise? So I don't have an outro, but I would be more than happy to just play the intro again, guys. So how about that? We'll just play that again. Ironcaster, I don't think got to see it. You guys take care. Be blessed. Talk hard. Till next time.
2 giant monster films. The War of the Gargantuas and Monster Zero. See the 2 mighty Gargantuas battle to the death. And on the same program, Rodan and Godzilla join forces to destroy the deadly Monster Zero. The War of the Gargantuas and Monster Zero. Both in color. Rated G. General audience from United Productions of America. A subsidiary of DEI Industries.